I surrender to the Almighty my mind, speech and body. Vanakkam. We are reading a book called Thirukkural, written by an ancient Tamil poet called Thiruvalluvar. This is one of the many literary works given to us by our early Tamil ancestors. Tamil is one of the oldest languages that is still spoken today in some parts of the world. The ancient Tamils have left behind a vast number of books documenting not only their lifestyle but also some of the important learnings that they gathered over a long period of experiencing life on this planet. Now these literary works, they carry some important lessons that our ancestors wanted to transfer to the future generations. The number of books that our Tamil ancestors have left behind are so many that one lifetime is not enough to read all of them at once. But scholars agree that this one book called Thirukkural contains the essence of all of Tamil literary works. The Thirukkural is a book on Aram. Aram is a word that refers to the order that we find in nature. For example, the planets revolve around the sun in a certain order. The bees or the ants organize themselves in a certain order to form a functional unit. The petals of a flower have a certain order in their arrangement, and so on. So any order which is found in nature that allows for a smooth functioning of life is called as Aram. And as long as this Aram is maintained, there is peace and harmony. And if this natural order is disturbed, then there is a huge amount of destruction. So as humans, when we learn to align our lives in tune with this natural order, then we too can expect to live a peaceful and a happy life. So in this book, Thiruvalluvar gives us the Aram for the conduct of human life, specifically the way of life of a married person who is also called as a Grihasthan. That Aram for the life of a married person is called as Il Aram in Tamil. It is a way of living our lives where we learn to form attachments with our partner, children, friends and relatives, and eventually to the entire society that we live in. We learn to care for each other, and thereby we also become a better person. We become more mature. And when we learn to live like this, what would happen is we would reach a stage where we automatically begin to care for the entire society, and we start doing things for the benefit of everyone. And then fame becomes a natural byproduct. And once we achieve fame, a person tends to feel satisfied and starts to look for something bigger, a bigger kind of happiness, the more permanent one, and the search for a higher purpose begins, and the book shows a way for such a seeker too. That way of life is called as Thuravu in Tamil, and the Aram for this stage of the life is called as Thuravaram. And here we learn to release ourselves from the attachments that we have made so far, and thereby we find a bigger kind of happiness. This path would lead one to a space of permanent bliss called as Veedu in Tamil, or Mukti or Moksha. So Illaram is where we form attachments, and Thuravaram is where we learn to let go of attachments. And this book talks about these two kinds of Aram, that is Illaram and Thuravaram. Most often in life, what happens is we get caught in our daily lives that we don't have the time to reflect on what we are really doing. Many of us can get lost in our daily routine that we forget how to love our children or friends, and we miss being there for our loved ones until the very end of our life, when it becomes too late to turn back and fix things. I personally feel that this book has given me a chance to view my life from a distance and be able to see if I'm really going where I want to go, and if I am treating my loved ones the way I want to be treated and not the way I was treated in my past. It helps me to see if I'm actually living the life that I want to live, and if I'm saying yes to the things that could bring me joy and no to the things that could hurt me. It seems like such a simple formula, right? Saying yes to the right things and no to the wrong things. But putting it in practice requires a clarity of thinking, and Thirukkural surely has helped in increasing that clarity. So, coming back to the book. Now this book is divided into three big sections called as Paal. the Arathu Paal, the Paal, and the Inbathu Paal. The Arathu Paal talks about Illaram and Thuravaram, and in order to live this life we need money, so the principles of management are addressed next in the Paal. And finally, life is also about enjoying the pleasures, so Inbathu Paal addresses that. So Aram, Porul or wealth, and Inbam or pleasure are the three big topics covered in this book. And therefore it looks like the book has covered all aspects of human life, and that is why they say that this one book is a good guide to live successfully. By success I mean not only monetary success and success in our relationships, but also success in the growth of the inner soul, which is said to move across lifetimes. And this time on the earth is just a short span compared to our long journey towards Vedu. Where are we now? We are following the commentaries written by a scholar called as Parimel who lived in a time after that of Vallavar. But his commentaries are considered to be the best so far, and it is comparable to the original text itself in the depth of knowledge. Parimel wrote an introduction to his book called as Urai, and we finished that section and we have entered the first Paal called as the Arathu Paal. In Arathu Paal, we entered the first chapter called as Kadavul Vaazhthu, or in praise of God. This chapter talks about what or who is God and the different ways of approaching the Almighty. We finished the first three Kurals. The first Kural talked about the fundamental nature of God. The second Kural talked about the purpose of our education, and the third Kural addressed the idea of approaching the God with our mind. Today we will enter the fourth Kural. The fourth Kural goes like this. Venduthal vendamai ilan adi சேர்ந்தார்க்கு யாண்டும் Idumbai ila. Venduthal vendamai ilan adi சேர்ந்தார்க்கு யாண்டும் Idumbai ila. The short and quick explanation for this Kural is, for those who constantly think about the God who does not have any cravings or aversion, there are no difficulties. That is, this Kural is saying that God does not have any cravings or aversion. And when we constantly think about such a God who doesn't have any cravings or aversion, then what would happen is we will also not be affected by cravings and aversion. And as a consequence, we will not have any difficulties in our life. This is the general explanation about the Kural. I know that there are many things that need more detailed explanation, but first let's see what Parimel has to say about this Kural. Venduthal vendamai ilan adi சேர்ந்தார்க்கு யாண்டும் Idumbai ila. There is the usage of the word சேர்ந்தார் in this Kural. The previous Kural also had the same word சேர்ந்தார். It means thinking continuously without any interruption. So this Kural also talks about approaching the Almighty with our mind. It says that when we learn to engage our mind with God in all of our actions, then we will be free of sufferings. The Kural uses the word Idumbai, which means sufferings or difficulties. So what kind of sufferings are we talking about? There are many different kinds of problems that all of us face in our lives, right? We have financial issues, relationship problems, physical damage to our bodies, and so on. So what kind of difficulties is what we are talking about? Parimel explains that sufferings in this life can be classified into three categories. First one, sufferings that we bring upon us by ourselves, by our own actions. This is also called as Adi Anmigam. Then sufferings that come to us from other living beings. For example, when somebody hits us, this is also called as Adi Baudigam. And third, sufferings that arise because of our karma, or what we call as fate. This is also called as Adi Devigam. And Parimel says that we will be freed from all these kinds of sufferings if we learn to think about God continuously without any interruption. How is that possible? I mean, what does our thoughts about God have anything to do with erasing our sufferings, right? What is the connection? Among all the thoughts that we engage in, Thirukkural says that all of our sufferings are the result of our engagement with cravings and aversion. Venduthal or vendamai. That is something to think about. That cravings and aversion lead us to suffering. Interestingly, This is something that is told to us in all kinds of religious and philosophical teachings, right? That the root cause of all of our sufferings is either we get stuck in craving for something or we are stuck in hating something too much. We don't know how to come out of our cravings and aversion. But how to live without getting stuck in cravings and aversion? Does that mean that we have to somehow kill all our likes and dislikes and hate ourselves for liking and disliking certain things? Is that called as going beyond cravings and aversion? No, certainly not. Then what do we mean by going beyond the cravings and aversion? Is it even possible to live like that? And how is thinking about God going to help us in getting beyond craving and aversion? The answer is, you are what you constantly think about. And this is one of the important learnings from this Kural. When we constantly engage our mind on one specific idea or a thought continuously, we become that idea that we are thinking about. It sounds strange, right? How can we become an idea that we are thinking about? What do we mean by that? There is an interesting example for this fact. There was a yogi called Swamy Vivekananda who played a key role in introducing yoga to the Western world. He brought Hinduism known to the Western world. His guru was Ramakrishna Paramahamsar. Ramakrishna Paramahamsar lived in India and he was an ardent devotee of a goddess called Mother Kali. To him, Kali was not just an idol made of clay. Kali was real and he was almost like a child to his goddess. He was always thinking and meditating about goddess Kali. When writing about his life, people say that during his later years, he started to develop body parts like that of a woman. Since he was constantly engaged with the goddess that he loved and worshipped so much, even his body responded and began to change to that of a woman. These are not lies. You can read about them. What we should understand from this is, if we keep focusing all of our thoughts, emotions and time and basically all of ourselves in a particular object or an idea, then we transform into that object or idea. We see this happening in our lives too. Sometimes we see youngsters who are crazy about a movie star or a pop star. What they do is they become so obsessed with this person. They like the person so much that they begin to subconsciously imitate their actions, their way of dressing and talking and mannerisms. Don't we see that? Why should you suddenly change your habits and clothing and all that, right? But it's a natural process. That is, the more you think about and cherish the other person, we slowly tend to become that we are admiring and cherishing. Mind you, this can happen even if we keep spending our energies with negative things and negative people too. So that is why it is important to be watchful of what we are admiring and cherishing. But what if we were to use this truth to do something good to us? What if we constantly cherish the good things in life? That's clever, right? If we keep constantly cherishing and admiring and loving God, then it is possible that we will slowly begin to acquire God-like qualities for ourselves too, right? That seems to make sense. Now we attribute all the best qualities that we know to God. The most loving, giving, very strong, intelligent, wise, clever, happy, and so on. And one of the important qualities for God is He is not stuck in any craving or aversion. He is just neutral. So by cherishing God, it is possible to acquire that quality in us. And that is what this Kural says. That when we engage our thoughts, emotions and mind and all of ourselves in God, then we can slowly acquire His qualities. Now God is not stuck in any cravings or aversion, so we can also come out of our cravings and aversion. But what is it like to be unaffected by cravings and aversion? Do we have an example that we can look up to? The life of Raman from Ramayanam is often cited to understand this. Raman is said to have an equanimous outlook on life. I will tell you an incident showing this quality of Raman. Raman is the protagonist of the epic Ramayana. The Ramayanam is one of the two important epics of Hinduism. The Ramayanam is traditionally ascribed to Saint Valmiki in Sanskrit. Kamaba Ramayanam is a Tamil epic written by the Tamil poet Kambar. Though there are differences between the Sanskrit and the Tamil versions of the Ramayanam, fundamentally both authors narrate the life of Prince Rama. Here is the story in a nutshell. A long time ago, there was a king called Dasarathan who ruled over a place called Ayodhya. He had 3 wives and 4 sons. The sons were Raman, Lakshmanan, Bharadan and Shatrughnan. Raman was the eldest son and he was loved by everyone. One day, the king Dasarathan decided that it was time to give his throne to his eldest son Raman. Everyone seemed happy with the decision except Queen Kaikeyi because she wanted her own son Bharadan to rule and not her stepson Raman. And because of a promise that the king had made to Kaikeyi years before, the Queen Kaikeyi managed to convince the king to agree to banish Raman for 14 years and to crown her own son Bharadan. So now we are going to focus on the scene where Prince Raman is about to receive the news of inheriting the throne. So Raman is in his room and King Dasarathan is very happy and he enters the room to convey the good news in person to Raman. The king holds Raman and he proudly announced with a big smile, "I have decided to declare you as the heir to the throne. You are the right person and all our people are happy and excited to welcome you as our next king." Now, if we were in Raman's shoes, how would we have reacted to such a situation? Would we have jumped in joy and thrown a party because we are going to inherit a powerful kingdom? Or would we have felt burdened at the thought of shouldering such a huge responsibility? Raman, on the other hand, the author Kambar says, he felt neither. He viewed the situation with equanimity. He felt that I am the son of a powerful king. One day I have to rule the kingdom. It is my duty to do that with all my sincerity. So what is there to jump in joy or shiver in fear? So Kamban says that Raman did not feel overjoyed or overburdened. He simply said, "Yes, father, I will do it." In Tamil, Kambar writes, "Thathai apparisu seyya, தாமரை கண்ணன் காதல் உற்றிலன் இகழ்ந்திலன் கடன் இதென்று உணர்ந்தும் யாது கொற்றவன் ஏவியது அது செயலன்றோ நீதியற்கு என நினைந்தும் அப்பணிதலே நின்றான்." So what is saying is, Raman took a neutral attitude because he had a sense of duty. The king has given me an order, so I have to simply do it because it is my duty. What is there to be overjoyed or to be afraid? And because he was able to adopt such a neutral attitude in inheriting the throne, Raman was able to stay calm when he was denied the throne the very next day. The night before the ceremony, Queen Kaikeyi asked for her boons from King Dasarathan that Raman should be banished from the kingdom and her son Bharadan should be made as the next king. King Dasarathan was heartbroken, so he couldn't face his son to convey the terrible news. So Queen Kaikeyi herself delivered the news to Raman. She told Raman, "You know what? Your father wishes you to go to the forest. You will not be the next ruler. So Bharadan will be the next king." To which Raman simply replied, "Yes, mother, I shall do as father says." No anger, no frustration, no sense of being betrayed, nothing. So this is one of the ways to go beyond craving and aversion, to have a sense of duty. There are many techniques to come out of our cravings and aversion, but adopting a sense of duty is one way to achieve it, just as how Raman has lived his life in this scene. And when we learn to live like this, I suppose it will become a habit and we will never be stuck in any kind of cravings and aversion, and there won't be any suffering for us. In the space of Vedu, which is our final destination, it is said that we remain unaffected by cravings and aversions. We become an observer of everything. All the cravings and aversions simply rise and fall. That kind of existence is natural for God. So when we constantly think about Him, we also move into the space of being unaffected by cravings and aversion. And this is the meaning of this Kural, Venduthal vendamai, இலான் அடி சேர்ந்தார்க்கு யாண்டும் இடும்பை இல. Those who cherish the idea of a God who does not have any cravings and aversion will also acquire those qualities and be freed from all kinds of suffering. That seemed like an easy Kural to understand, right? The important lesson to be remembered here is we become that idea which we constantly think about and cherish with all of our mind, heart and everything. So it is better that we make use of that quality of humans to achieve something great. And I hope that made some sense. I shall end here. Thank you all for listening. Nandri, Vanakkam.